The past few years of my life have been a living hell. I wouldn't wish this upon my worst enemy. I've seen things I wish I'd never seen. I've been places I wish I'd never been. And I've done things that I wish I've never done. I could spend the rest of my life wishing that things had been different, but the fact of the matter is that my past is my past. I did all of these things to myself. But it wasn't always this way. I grew up just outside of Philadelphia. I lived in a nice middle-class town. I have an amazing family. I have an older brother and a younger sister. And I have two amazing parents that have always done everything they could for me. They gave me everything I needed. I was a very happy kid growing up. School was fun for me. I really enjoyed seeing my friends every day. I've always valued friendships above all else, and I appreciate loyalty. I hate letting people down. I've often put my own feelings behind the feelings of others. This people-pleasing attitude would eventually catch up to me. I first began drinking right before entering high school. Great.
Just a minute. Give me your house license.
Thanks. I first began drinking right before high school. My brother and I would steal our parents' booze and liquor, and we'd sneak out at night, meet our friends, and drink. I found out very early on that the drunker I got, the more my friends enjoyed it. The more I drank, the more they left. I needed that external validation to feel good about myself. It helped me feel adequate. The happier they were, the happier I was. It was pretty simple. Also at this time, I started running cross country and track. I had played other sports before, but I quickly became very, very good at this. It was a great way for me to get attention, and like I said, my ego has always craved attention from others. I love being good at something. I literally lived off the attention that I got from others for this. My ego went straight to my head, and I would run myself into the ground trying to get validation from other people. High school was amazing. I had loads of friends, and we had a lot of fun. I got plenty of attention as a standout athlete, and I also started drinking and smoking weed pretty regularly. I loved to party. I was fast on the track, and I lived even faster on the weekends. Once again, partying and getting faded on a regular basis became a great way for me to fuel my ego. Drink more, smoke more, and my friends would like me more. That's the way I thought. Although I loved this lifestyle, it never got out of hand for me. I was taking running very seriously. It was my ticket into college. I knew that if I ran fast enough, I was going to go to college, and I didn't want anything to get in the way of that. I quickly grew a false sense of confidence that I could do this double life and have absolutely no consequences as a result of it. By the time my senior year rolled around, I was flying high. I was all-state and all-American. I thought I was the freaking man. When I got to school, a stack of letters would be waiting on my desk from various colleges that wanted me to come run for them. All the success went right to my head. No one could have knocked me off that mountain I was on. I signed my letter of intent early to LaSalle University in Philadelphia. I signed in September, so the rest of my senior year was one giant party. I had a blast on a daily basis. Drinking and drugs were fun for me for a very long time. I did it, I liked it, and I wanted to do it again. It was that simple. I didn't think anything of it. Things started to change a little bit in college. As an athlete, I was no longer a big fish in a small pond. Division I, so everyone was really good, and I couldn't get the attention that I was used to getting. I didn't stand out. If I couldn't get that attention on the track, I knew exactly where I could get that attention, and that was in the party scene. Drugs and alcohol, they were still an outlet for me, and they couldn't become too serious a problem because I needed to keep my scholarship. I couldn't drink myself into the ground because I had to show up for practice every day at 7 a.m., so I had just enough fun to be able to get by. Things were progressing slowly, though. I absolutely loved partying in college. I loved acting like a complete idiot. I loved waking up from like an epic night of drinking and having my friends tell stories about how out of hand I got or how messed up I was. I needed that attention. I needed that validation. I never once thought that any of these behaviors could catch up to me, though. It was fun. My friends were having fun. They were doing it. I thought that's what normal people did at this time. After my sophomore year in college, disaster struck. I broke my leg running. I was running about 100 miles a week, and it eventually caught up to me. In the blink of an eye, my entire life changed. I identified myself as a runner. That was taken away from me. I didn't know who I was. I lost my identity, and I knew exactly where I could find more attention, and that was, again, in the party scene. It was the only logical progression for me. I figured, if I can't run fast and get attention there, I'll drink and smoke a lot and get attention there. After that, it started to progress quickly. I stopped hanging out with runners and I started hanging out with new people. I couldn't stand to be around people who were accomplishing the dreams that I had set out for myself. If they were accomplishing things, it would literally make me sick to my stomach because I thought that was going to be me, and instead, I'm kind of a shell of my former self, and I'm doing things that I'm not really proud of. I hung out with people who partied every day, so I did the same. Waking up, getting high, going to class, leaving, getting high, going out that night, drinking, getting high, and then going to bed. It was pretty much a standard day for me. And I thought that was normal. I thought that's what college people did. When I was running every day and getting up at 6 and 7 a.m., I always told myself, if I have the chance to be a normal college kid, I will. And when I got hurt, that's what I thought that was. I thought that was an opportunity to be normal. And I jumped right in. After college, I went right to work. I had a lot of immediate success at work. I worked for a company that sold aftermarket auto parts, which is basically a replacement part for your car that you buy at Pep Boys. I got a lot of responsibility very quickly, and I dove right into that. And the success basically went to my head. I got the opportunity to launch my own product line from the ground up, and the product line made millions out the gate. It was very successful, and I thought that was me. I thought that because the products were selling, I was really good at that. Everything always went to my head, and I was kind of delusional about the success that came up in my life. I was in my early 20s, and I'm managing people that are 40 and 50 years old. They hated it, but I loved it. The success went right to my head, and I was still getting high every day, before work, at work, after work. It didn't matter. I was smoking weed all the time, and on the weekends I was drinking a lot. We went out a lot for work. We took clients out, and my bosses thought it was cool that I could drink and have a good time with the clients. So that went to my head as well. If they had an appointment client coming in, they made sure that I was there available that night so that I could show them a good time. The success at work certainly made me cocky. I thought I was entitled to live the lifestyle I was living. I thought that because I could pull this off so successfully, I was better for it. I was perceived as a grown-up from all the people around me. I was making a lot of money and I was very successful. So at that time I decided to start doing some grown-up drugs. Cocaine became a big part of my life. Weddings were big in my life at this point. My buddies were getting weddings, so bachelor parties, and cocaine was a lot of fun in those social settings. It never became habitual for me, but I enjoyed having a good time with it. Eventually, I found my way to Percocet, and from the first time I sniffed a Percocet, I fell in love with it. All the inadequacies I had about not being able to run anymore, and about not being the man I thought I was, they disappeared the second I sniffed that drug. And from that moment on, I wanted to be high like that all the time. I was getting a lot of slack from my girlfriend at the time about smoking too much weed in the house and all the time, and her clothes were smelling like weed, so she was upset about it. So I realized that if I was sniffing Percocet, she didn't realize it. So she thought I was cutting back on marijuana, and she was really proud of me. All the while, I'm picking up a much, much worse habit. From the outside looking in, things in my life are going really well at this time. I'm making a ton of money, so I decided it's time for me to progress in life according to society's terms. I got married, I bought a beautiful house, and within a year my wife was pregnant, and that all happened within a year of my life. It's a lot of stressful situations, especially when you're kind of juggling a Percocet habit at the same time. My pill progression was going through the roof. Every day I'm doing more and more and more to maintain, and it's becoming increasingly apparent to me that at the time I could not stop. I always thought that it was a drug that I didn't want to stop, not that I couldn't stop. And when things in my life were getting more and more serious, I started realizing I had to stop and couldn't. The day my son was born should have been the proudest day of my life. But looking back, it's probably one of the most embarrassing and shameful moments of my life. My wife had to have a C-section because my son was tangled up in the umbilical cord in the womb. So I decided that it was a great idea to get really, really high when I had to go and change into the scrubs before going into the OR. I couldn't even watch my son come into this world without having to feel high to do it. Looking back, it's one of the most shameful moments of my life. Eventually, no matter how much money you're making, if you have a habit, the money's going to run out. And it did. I was broke. My wife was working as a night shift nurse, raising a son, and supporting me and the house and all the bills we had. She was paying every dime because every paycheck I would get on Friday would be gone by Monday. I had no money, so I did what drug addicts do when they have no money. I started stealing. I would rob anyone, and I was a coward, so I wouldn't rob people I didn't know. I robbed people I loved. I robbed my wife, I robbed my family, and I stole from work. Within a few months, I had stolen tens of thousands of dollars from work, and I was ashamed every time I did it, so I didn't know what to do to stop myself, so I told work. Work fired me really quick. I couldn't support a family, and I was a monster. So my wife decided that it was in her best interest and the best interest of my son for her to leave. She packed up and went to Washington, D.C. to live with her sister. She took my son with me, and I was left alone with a house I couldn't afford, so I lost the house. At this point in my life, I decided that I needed help. I wouldn't say that I decided I needed help. I decided that I had no other choice but to get help. I was not ready for help, and that's really important in drug addiction, is that you need to be ready to stop, and I wasn't. Over the last 2 years of my life, I've been in and out of 8 different rehabs. After 5 of them, or 6 of them rather, I picked up the very first day I got out. 30 days in the rehab, I thought I was cured. I put down the substance. I didn't have a dependency on it. I wasn't dope sick when I woke up in the morning, so I figured I could leave and start using drugs the way I used to use drugs, on the weekends, having fun every now and again, try to get that fun back in my life, that excitement. The second I picked back up, I was hooked again, every single time. It's a very, very progressive disease. After that 7th rehab, I had overdosed, and I decided to take this seriously. I strung together a few months of clean time, about 4 months. My life improved dramatically, almost instantly. I was going to AA meetings, I was working a program, I had a sponsor, a home group, and a lot of people that were living in the halfway house I was at that could really support me when I needed someone to talk to, or to relate to, or to just, spew all that nonsense that's going on in my head. Life improved quickly. My family started to trust me again. My wife was talking to me again, and I was able to see my son again, and it was great. I got very close to some of the people in that sober house, and one of the days my best friend and I were driving to pick up a check from his boss, and he suggested that we get high. And my past has always been trying to please other people. I cared more about hurting my friend's feelings that day than I did about saving my life, my son's life, my wife's life, and the rest of my family's life. I put his feelings ahead of all of that. And we tried just eating tramadol, which is a pretty harmful but not as powerful as most of the drugs I was doing, painkiller. And within seconds of eating that, we were on our way to go pick up heroin because that didn't get us to where we needed to go. After that, things got really bad, really quick. I got kicked out of my sober house. I went and lived with a friend for a little while until I started robbing her, and then she kicked me out as well. I was working at the time as a roofer in Philadelphia. I couldn't get the white-collar jobs I had had before because I was a drug addict and a criminal, and I was not really employable. So I was working as a roofer. I liked doing it. It was honorable work to me. But at the same time, it was a great job that allowed me to continue my habit. Over the course of the past 6 months of my life, almost everything that I thought I would never do, I've done. Heroin became the drug of choice. I was picking it up every day, and I was shooting heroin. I had always told myself I would never use needles. Anything I've ever told myself was a lie. If you have a drug addiction, you will do whatever it takes to get more and to feel better and to just keep that progression going. Violence picked up. I would live in and out of trap houses and flop houses, working the door at a dealer's house, with a gun in my back waistband, thinking I was tough. If anyone had ever pulled a gun on me, I probably would have defecated in my pants. I was a coward. I've overdosed. I know what it's like to have to pull a breathing tube out of your mouth in a hospital. I know what it's like for your wife to get a call in D.C. from a Philadelphia cop saying that your husband is unresponsive and he's been without oxygen for hours. So she has to drive 3 hours to the hospital thinking about what my son should wear to the funeral. I've been homeless. I lived in and out of my work truck. Wouldn't shower for weeks at a time. Wouldn't eat. if I did eat, it was usually out of a trash can. I'd watch someone come out of the McDonald's or the Dunkin' Donuts and throw out some food, and I'd run out there and eat that. And I thought that was normal. Like, throughout all of this, I thought everything I did was normal, because how else do you survive if you have an addiction? You know, there's people out there that are heroin addicts and they're surviving, so why can't I? I completely abandoned my family. I always wanted to be an incredible father. My father, I couldn't imagine a greater father. He's been everything I've ever needed and more. And I thought that I would do that for my son, and I've been the complete opposite. He's 2.5 years old, and every day he just wants to spend time with his daddy, and he doesn't even know where he is. He doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know why he wakes up, and all the people he goes to school with have daddies, and he doesn't. I was a monster to my wife. You know, I was her best friend for 10 years, and in a blink of an eye, it was all over. She worked very hard to get her life to where it was, and now she has to live with her sister, her 3 kids, and her husband in a 3-bedroom house where she shares a room with her son. And she worked too hard to have to live that way, and that's my fault. That's on me. Sharing needles, that's something I thought I would never do. But I was with my friends, and they promised that they were clean. So, why would they lie to me, right? Luckily, they were right. But, the things that separate me from the homeless stereotype that you see on the street, who's sick and has Hep C and things like that, it's just luck. I'm that guy. There's a very, very thin line between he and I. But life's not that way anymore for me now. I'm very, very fortunate and very grateful. I have an opportunity to spend time at the Seabrook House in Westfield, and it's a 90-day transitional living program for men. Essentially, it's a rehab for a longer period of time with a lot more freedom. And every day for me is a blessing. My worst day today is better than the best high I've ever had in my entire life. And I truly mean that. I wake up, I'm not dope sick. I have an incredible roommate that I get to start my day with. We take everything seriously. We work a solid program. We share honestly about what's going on in my life. I realize that a lot of people have the same problems I do. And a lot of people have worse problems than I do. I don't like judging things, but when I see someone who's going through a very hard time, it makes me humble. And it makes me realize that, my life's not that bad. I'm not that important. I'm just like everyone else. And if they can do this, so can I. And we're doing it together on a daily basis. And I've realized that all these nevers that I've checked off my list and all the madness that I put myself through, I don't need to live that way anymore. And, like I said before, I have a disease of choice. And when I see a drug and the consequences, my brain doesn't fire the way normal people's brains do because of the past that I put myself through. Once you put that drug in your body, all bets are off. But there is a better way, and if I do the right things on a daily basis, and it's hard, it's very hard to wake up every day. I have to do my best. But I can be the things that I want to be. I'm a lousy father, but I'm working on that. I'm a drug addict and a junkie, but I'm working on that. I'm a criminal, but I'm working on that. And that's good enough for me right now to keep moving forward and to keep living my life the way I want to do. All the things I did, when I was sitting in your seat, I had an assembly just like this when I was in high school. And it went in one ear and out the other. And I would give anything to go back and have taken that assembly seriously. This is my story, and it doesn't have to be yours. Walk away.